quiet shockwave is rippling through Canada's defense world, and according to Reuters and Defense News, it could alter the balance of power across North America. A fighter jet many dismissed as an underdog, the Swedish Gripen, is suddenly challenging a multi-billion-dollar U.S. defense empire. And now, Royce, one of the most respected engine makers in the world, is stepping into the fight. If this move succeeds, it won't just disrupt a purchase, it will challenge decades of U.S. dominance over Canada's Air Force, its procurement system, and even its sovereignty. What began as a simple replacement for aging jets is spiraling into a geopolitical confrontation stretching from Ottawa to Washington to Stockholm, and the stakes are enormous. For years, Canada's future seemed predetermined. Ottawa was set to acquire 88 American F-35 stealth fighters, an arrangement long expected by Washington and fully supported by the Pentagon. On paper, it was a neat package: new aircraft, alignment with NATO allies, and continued strategic partnership with the United States. But defense procurement is never neat. Noise, pressure, cost overruns, shifting politics, and growing worries about national dependence have cracked open a door many thought was permanently shut. And through that door walks the Gripen. Less expensive, more adaptable, Arctic-friendly, and now possibly powered by a British-built engine instead of an American one. The Canadian Air Force faces conditions most nations never experience. Jets must survive -40 winters, storms that can shut down entire provinces, and some of the longest patrol routes on Earth. Pilots operate across vast uninhabited regions where help is hours away. A fighter must take off from icy runways, deploy quickly, and return safely even when the weather turns brutal. The Gripen, designed for Sweden's Nordic environment, fits this reality unusually well. It is lightweight, agile, capable of highway landings, and built to be maintained by small crews. But one issue has always kept it tethered to Washington: the engine. For decades, the Gripen relied on an American power plant, the GE F404 or F414, giving the United States a quiet but powerful advantage. With a U.S. engine at its core, the aircraft came wrapped in a web of export restrictions. Washington could veto sales, limit deployments, or impose political conditions. Sweden designed the jet, but the United States controlled its heart. That dependence never sat comfortably in Stockholm, and certainly not in Ottawa. Now, according to BBC defense correspondents, Rolls-Royce is actively exploring a fully independent engine for the Gripen, a move that would remove the last thread of U.S. control. If successful, the jet would gain something priceless: true strategic sovereignty. And that changes everything. A Gripen powered entirely by European components would be free of U.S. vetoes and export controls. Sweden could sell it without needing Washington's approval. Canada could operate it without worrying about political interference. And for a nation already caught in a tense trade war with President Donald Trump, that freedom carries significant weight. Meanwhile, the numbers behind the F-35 deal are raising eyebrows. A Canadian audit found the total cost ballooning nearly 40%, rising from $19 billion to almost $28 billion since the agreement was signed in 2022. Each aircraft carries a lifetime cost approaching $200 million when operations, maintenance, and upgrades are included. By comparison, the Gripen E costs a little over half of that. It requires smaller crews, simpler maintenance, and can have its engine swapped in under 40 minutes, one of the fastest turnaround capabilities in the world. Ukraine understands that value better than anyone. Under relentless aerial assault, it turned to Sweden for options. Today, Kyiv is preparing to buy up to 150 Gripens to rebuild its air force, an enormous order that has pushed Saab to expand production capacity. That expansion could benefit Canada directly, because talks are underway between Saab and Bombardier to assemble a portion of Ukraine's jets on Canadian soil. If that happens, Canada wouldn't just buy Gripens, it would help build them. Political pressure in Ottawa is growing. Prime Minister Mark Carney has inherited a defense file now tangled in cost disputes, public skepticism, and strained relations with Washington. Trump has already hinted at new tariffs and even referred to Canada as America's 51st state, comments that have inflamed tensions. Defense analysts like Tim Ripley of Defense Eye magazine
argue that Canadians want to invest in allies who treat them as equals, not as dependents. And Canada is not trapped. Military analyst Francis Tousa points out that Canada has paid for only 16 of the planned 88 F-35s. That means Canada still has room to maneuver. A mixed fleet, something like 30 stealth fighters for high-risk missions and 60 to 70 Gripens for patrol, Arctic operations, and rapid response, could satisfy both national needs and alliance commitments while avoiding over-reliance on Washington. In many operational areas, the Gripen even outperforms the F-35. Its combat range is roughly 1,500 kilometers, noticeably higher than the F-35A's approximate 1,100 kilometers. For a country as vast as Canada, that difference is significant. The Gripen also aligns naturally with Canada's existing hose and drogue refueling system. Switching to the F-35's flying boom system would require 4 new tanker aircraft, costing an additional $1.5 billion. Add that to maintenance infrastructure and pilot conversion training, and the financial gap widens even more. Of course, there are trade-offs. The F-35's single stealth profile and advanced sensors offer undeniable advantages. It is a powerful aircraft. Critics of the Gripen also argue that its single-engine design is a risk for long patrols over Arctic waters. But supporters counter that Sweden, operating in cold and remote conditions for decades, has proven the aircraft's reliability again and again. What's becoming harder to ignore is the global shift around the Gripen. Thailand operates 11. The Philippines is finalizing a purchase of 20. Brazil produces its own under a partnership with Saab. Portugal, Oman, Peru, and Colombia have all expressed interest, especially after facing U.S. tariff pressure. Each sale chips away at America's dominance in the fighter jet market. And if Rolls-Royce succeeds, a fully sovereign Gripen could become the West's first major jet program outside Washington's control in decades. Back in Canada, high-level government movement is already happening. Industry Minister Melanie Joly has visited Saab's headquarters. Ontario's Minister Vic Fedeli has traveled to Sweden to discuss provincial involvement. Negotiations are described as active and serious. Incentives are on the table. The potential economic reward, thousands of jobs, new aerospace facilities, and a revival of Canada's long-dormant military manufacturing sector is too large for Ottawa to ignore. And yet the risks remain. Bombardier's past struggles with large-scale projects are well known. A new production line would require training, workforce expansion, and a shift from commercial to military standards. Ottawa would likely distribute contracts across several provinces, adding complexity but increasing political buy-in. The challenge is immense, but so is the opportunity. What's unfolding now is more than a debate about aircraft. It is a test of independence, economics, alliances, and identity. Canada must decide whether its skies will continue to be guarded through American systems or through a partnership that gives it more control over its future. The choice will shape the next 40 years of Canadian defense policy. What do you think? Tell us in the comments. And if you appreciate detailed reporting from Maple States, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Your best comment will be pinned at the top.